So how do we compare two arrays in Java? So this is what we want to learn, and most of the examples will be on BlueJ. So here I'm going to create two arrays. Let's say, for example, let's comment this one. Let's say an integer array called array1, which is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then integer array2 is equal to array1. All right, so here we said this is going to be shallow copying, so system.out.println, and here if I say array1 equal array2, this is going to print true, right? So if we go here, so this is true, and it's true not because the contents of array2 is equal to the contents of array1. It's because both of them have the same address, right? So they are pointing to the same object in the memory, and we have seen this before. All right, now the next question is how can we compare the contents of arrays? All right, so how can we, for example, here, if I say array2 is equal to a new array, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now I try to ask if they are equal. So here 1 equal array2, and let's print this, and it's going to print false, right? Because they have different addresses, even though they have the same contents. So again, if you want to do the comparison, then you would have to do it manually, element by element. All right, so this is what you need to do. So how can we think about doing this? How can we compare element by element and make sure that each two elements are equal? Each corresponding two corresponding elements are equal in these two arrays. Now the first thing that I would think about here, all right, let's say for example here I'm trying to compare these two arrays. So the first thing, as I said, to compare it is going to be if, all right, let's say for example I'm going to create a boolean here, boolean are equal. All right, so let me check this quickly here. All right, all right, so this is exactly what I had in mind, so this way we do not have something completely different. So array equal or are equal, that's fine, and I'm going to assume by default they are equal. All right, let's say that. And then my hope is that at the end of this, I'm going to system .out the print line, and here I'm going to print the decision whether they are equal or not. All right, so that is the start point, the end point, and in the middle I would like to make sure whether are equal is supposed to remain true because they are equal, or should it be converted to false because I found that they are not matching or not equal. So the first thing that comes to mind is to make sure that actually they are compatible, they are of the same length. All right, so I would say array1 dot length, all right, is not equal to array2 dot length. That should give you an easy decision that are equal should become false. All right, so that's very simple decision. If they are not equal in the length, they couldn't be equal in the contents, and that's why are equal should be false. Now else, if they are equal, then I need to make more nested decisions and try to check whether they are really equal or not. So I know they are of the same length. Now the contents, we need to compare the contents. So the first thing you want to do is to compare one element by element. So what you want to do is to have a for loop, for example, here. So in the else, I would have an array, sorry, a curly braces, and here just to make it readable, even though it's redundant, I would have curly braces. So in the else, now that I know they are of the same length, I'm going to have a loop int I is equal to 0, I is less than array 1.length. It could be array 2.length. It doesn't matter because I just made sure that they are of the same length. So it doesn't matter if you use array 1 or array 2. I plus plus, and then here I'm going to check the contents. So my decision is very simple. I'm going to compare element by element, the ith element of array 1 with the ith element of array 2, and once I find any discrepancy, any two elements that are not equal, that's it for me. All right, that means two arrays are not equal. So here the decision would be very simple. If array 1 sub I is not equal to array 2 sub I, that's it. R equal becomes false. So I is equal to 0. So I compare the 0th element of array 1 with the 0th element of array 2. If they are equal, then this if statement is not going to execute and R equal remains true. Then I move to the second element. Are these equal? Keep going. Keep going. Once you find two elements that are not equal, R equal, the flag becomes false. And in that case, you will make a good decision that they are not equal at the end. So that's it. So now it says they are true. Let's change one of them to be 6 here. They are not equal. So that's how you decide whether two arrays are equal or not, and that's exactly the method that we have here, which uses the flag just to print a nice message here, and I use the while loop to do the iteration. Now the nice thing about the while loop is that and that's actually something we can explain here, is that if you notice here that this for loop, even though they are not equal, all right, it's going to continue checking checking for the whole array, even though you found some or two elements that are not equal anymore. All right, so you start 0, you start 1, 2, 3, and then I get to 4 here. 4 is not equal to 6, so set R equal to false. But then what will happen is that I will increment. You're going to compare the 5 to 5, which doesn't execute this. R equal was false, it remains false, and that's why you get false. All right, so you can imagine how this could be a waste of time. Like, for example, let's say you have two arrays of length of 1000 each of them, and then for the first element you found that they are of the same length. That's good. Then first element, they are not equal. So now you are wasting your time comparing 999 elements while you actually decided from the first element that they are not two equal arrays. So that's why you could change this to make it a loop that depends on the status of R equal. So while here, I'm going to move the int I is equal to 0 outside, and then I'm going to say my condition is, all right, while I, so here I'm going to move this here also. I will have I plus plus. All right, so here, and then my condition is that as long as the I haven't reached the end of the array, so while I is less than, so here array 1.length, for example, and r equal is still true, what I want to do is to go inside and compare array 1 sub I is not equal to array 2 sub I. Alright, so what's happening is that you set I to 0, you go and check is I less than the array length, alright, either one, and R equal is still true. This means go ahead and compare the I element. So if they are not equal, set R equal to false, increment I by 1. Now you go back to the while condition and then you check, and then you found that, for example, you haven't reached the end of the length of the array. However, R equal now is telling you it's false. You found two elements that are not equal. That's it for you. You are done with the while loop. Just exit the while loop, go and print that they are not equal. All right. So that's a more efficient way to do this loop, to check whether two arrays are equal or not. All right. So here I will get that back to 4. And now it's true. So that's how you compare two arrays in Java.